Hello and welcome to Nbyula Talks. Before we begin, we have a few updates and reminders for you. We would love to have you be part of our Nebula community. And you can do so by logging on to www.nbyula.com, where you can join communities related to your area of interest, register for upcoming Nebula Talks, book one-to-one skylifts, and view other upcoming events. You can also take this opportunity to connect with fellow learners or the speaker by sending a connection request. When you connect with the speaker, you will be able to contact them directly as well as receive updates about their upcoming talks. Kindly note that during this session, you will not be able to switch on your camera or unmute your mic. To ask questions during the talk, go to the audience chat, type your question, and select Post Your Question. If your question has not been answered during the talk, you will be notified once it's been answered, or if your question has not been answered during the talk, you can go to www.nbyula.com and spin a quest, and your questions will be answered. Thank you for joining us today. We hope this talk broadens your horizons and takes you to new learning heights.
Hello everyone, welcome to another Nebula Talk. Like our intro video said, to broaden your horizons and taking to new heights, I am your host for today, Priyanka Cholera, and we are back with another Nebula Talk. For today's guest, I have a fellow lawyer with me, Vayuna, who has completed her LLM from NYU, and I have been personally looking forward to speak with her. Before I hand it over to Vayuna, let me introduce Nebula to you all. Nebula is a marketplace for students who want to work or study abroad, and we enable this by establishing a mentor and mentee relationship between people who want to work or study abroad to people who are working or studying abroad. Vayuna here is a dual qualified attorney in the state of New York and India and has completed her LLM from the prestigious New York University. Over to you, Vayuna, to share your story in your own words.
Yes, so hi everybody. My name is Vayuna, and like Priyanka introduced me, I'm a dual qualified attorney now in New York and India. And my first law degree was from India. I did the 5-year integrated LLB course. I from National Law School of India University, which I still feel I was very, very lucky to get through. And after that, I worked at Trilegal, which is a law firm in India, then moved on to litigating in the Gujarat High Court. And there, somehow, I was drawn to a lot of public interest litigation work that we did. And somewhere during COVID, when I feel most people were contemplating life and choices, I decided to apply for this LLM at NYU. I did the international law LLM with sort of focus on international human rights law, and then started working in the United States. So what I do now is represent a lot of minority communities in the United States, which fortunately, unfortunately, are mostly Black or brown communities. And in front of a court system where the children are taken away by the foster care setup here because they're poor and they cannot care for their kids, which for most of us is a very new concept in India, because we don't I personally have never seen anybody's kids being taken away because there were lack of means or resources. But here there is a developed country, in fact, sorry, which has decided to do that. So I represent these parents to be able to keep their kids at home.
That was a wonderful introduction, Vayuna. And to all our audience who are watching now and later, Vayuna has little humbled herself here because all the names in her, trajectory, whether it's a National Law University or Trilegal or what is she doing right now, or most lawyers, they chase money and fame like rightfully they should. But after whatever she studied, she's representing minority, which is a path less taken in the field. And more power to lawyers like her. Being from the legal community myself, I personally am so proud of what you're doing. And we'll talk about your journey more. So, all of the audience today would be more interested to know from the start that how was your journey from your undergraduate program and if step by step, like you followed us through it, right? So, if you can elaborate more, like, how did your application or how did you come across New York University in the first place?
Okay, so the first part about my how my journey in the undergraduate program was.
Yeah.
I am a first generation lawyer. I don't have anybody in my family who's done law or is even contemplating doing law. I went to NLSIU in 2013, and luckily for me, NLSIU came with its own perks. So I didn't really have to struggle initially in the real sense of things to find a job. And That's how trilegal happened in my life. And I worked at Trilegal. I worked for a short duration there. I worked with a banking team, and Trilegal was also a natural course of things for me in the sense that I was a first generation lawyer. And For most of us, or any of us who don't come from a background in law, that's how your career takes you as a 22-year-old graduating out of university, because it's always told that any other career choice in law is going to need a structure, a setup, which comes mostly from contacts or families. So that's how trilegal happened. But I think I very quickly realized that it's not the place for me, and I quit trilegal and I started litigating in the Gujarat High Court, and I absolutely loved it. In the some So there were subject areas that I would have preferred, but there were also subject areas that just come to you as an attorney when you're litigating, and I was okay with both. So while I would have had my preferences, I was very happy doing all sorts of litigation. So that was eye opening for me in the sense that I thought that this is what I would want to do on a larger scale in life generally, that litigation is something that a lawyer should, like me, should or would like doing. And from there, like I said, at one point, I started considering LLMs and doing human rights at an international, broader level, because I thought I'll get an opportunity to speak with or come in contact with communities from all over the world. And as a human rights lawyer, that's ideal if that's what we wish to do in life, because only India gives us a very limited understanding of things. The cultural sensitivity that comes out of working abroad or working in human rights, especially in my case, it was something that I thought the United States would be the best place to give. So that's how I worked from the undergraduate program to the LLM.
I mean, it was just about selecting New York University. Like, what merits did you see that, it would be the best place for you to study?
Yes. So for here, I have pointers. I think in India, for how much ever we emphasize on going to the best university, going to Ivy Leagues, especially in the United States, or going to the best of the universities in Europe, there are things that at a practical level we sometimes forget, which is it's very, very important to see which course you want to do. So it doesn't make sense if you go to X university, which is a great university, but it's not known for the course you want to pursue. So because people know, and it's just very, it's not smart to assume that people wouldn't. So one thing that I usually suggest, is, for all the enticing that the Harvards and Yales and Stanfords and I don't know, Cambridges and Oxfords and anything else might have, the truth is your program is going to be well done at one particular university, and you begin your sliding scale of preferences with that university. And it's okay if that university is not a Harvard, Stanford, Cambridge, Oxford, whatever. And second, I think city. So for your preferable career or profession, which city gives you opportunities, is important. I would want to assume that tomorrow, if I go study at Stanford on the West Coast and I want to find opportunities in the East Coast, it's a real thing, but it's not. So you network based on where you're in school. You apply to places because you just hear more of places which are around the same city, around the same vicinity. And the city plays a huge, huge role in deciding how to pick a university. So for me, the reason I picked NYU is because NYU is the best international law program around the globe. And it was in New York. So now the thing is that when I tell people I went to NYU, the first question that most Indians tend to ask is, why not Columbia? And this is what I'm trying to answer here. No, if I don't want to be very direct about it, but my point is that pick a course, pick a university, and pick a city that suits you. And there are other personal decisions people take in terms of wanting to be around or closer to family, or being comfortable with a certain weather. All of those agreed are very, very important. Don't pick a university because just because there's a list and it's the best. Pick a university because you know there are multiple factors that will help you achieve what you wish to achieve out of that education.
I totally second you on that because New York, when it comes to my mind, is Manhattan, skyscrapers and, fancy people walking down the street. But I think when it comes to student life and career, it has to be beyond those points because at the end, it becomes very shallow if you just pick on the college life or anything else.
Yeah, also the truth for us is education is so expensive. Like we can't fight the conversion rate. None of us can do that. And if
Yeah.
you're investing the time, the money, the effort, and believe me, it's effort. At least my course was effort. You don't want to be in a place where quite practically there are no outputs out of it. Like I don't know what I'll do with a fancy degree if that degree is not leading me to something.
Right. I mean, just to add on to that, the other day, one of the students was like, I got selected in Maharashtra National Law University for an LLM for corporate law, but I want to go to Gujarat National Law University because I've heard it's better. And I was like, if you want to do corporate law, there's nothing better than Bombay. Just go for it. You learn to live in the city first, then you go for the job there.
Yeah. Also, you get this opportunity to be working part time or
Right.
interning, which is
Exactly.
so important.
So I will come to that later about your working experience, but if you can walk us through your LLM application process, that now right now you said that the choice of New York University was based on your bigger picture goal. Like you knew that New York was a place maybe you want to practice, and it had a good course in which you wanted to do a major in. But then, what did the application process look like for you?
So, the application process, I think, is different for different streams. For lawyers, we had this entire portal through which we had to send out our applications. One thing that I do want to say is you don't need to write the TOEFL or IELTS. Just email your university, tell them you're an Indian student, you have had your education in English, and they will waive it off for you. Don't waste that money. Please don't. It's just I don't know why so many students end up writing that exam. I am not talking about Canada. Canada, you need it for the people, which is a separate thing altogether. For university admissions, at least for law schools, and because NYU would also have a CS program. So for most universities, just write to them, ask them for a waiver. And I can't tell about every place because I've not really applied to 100 places in life. But for most places, you will get a waiver. Don't put yourself through it. It's a waste of time.
So, yeah, sorry, please continue.
And second, with the SOPs are important. And a piece of paper should definitely not determine whether you should get into a particular university or not, which I absolutely agree. But the fact is, those 600 words, 1,000 words, I don't think there's more than 1,000 anyway, law schools at least,
Yeah.
is going to affect your application. And the mistake that most of us make is put like make sentences out of our resume and make it as our SOP. That is not how it's going to work. It's all of us have had, like, when we apply for masters, we are 22 years old, 23, 24, 25, 26, whatever. We have had enough life experiences to be able to talk about them. The issue is that we don't remember them or we don't value them because we have not lived in a setup where we have learned to value what we've gone through. So with an SOP, it's very, very important to talk about your deductions of your personal and professional life and how they culminated into your current educational expectation out of a particular university. It's very difficult. The word limit does not make it easy. But I also suggest that the more number of people that read your SOPs, the better it is. Second thing, do just so For example, if you send me an SOP and I read it and I have some 15 comments to make, don't accept all of them just because I managed to get through NYU. Because I don't understand you. It's okay to want to just stand your ground on keeping a particular point in your SOP. So even if you get those 100 people to read your SOPs, ensure that you're still telling your story. And this is very difficult. It's easier said than done. But I feel for getting through universities, SOPs is so important. Different people need different timelines. So some people take 6 months, 7 months, or like up to a year to figure out the right SOP for the right application. Some people can do it in a month. There is no right answer to how long you should take for writing that SOP, but it's very, very important. Third, I think, is the resume. Um, Resumes need to be changed. Straighten out. You can't submit your resume that you've used all your life in India, even if it was for, I don't know, the for Google's or Amazon's or whichever is the best or the highest paying or the most prestigious jobs in India. So get somebody who knows how resumes for a particular country should look like. Change your resume. Just please do that. So these are three things that I usually suggest. Save time on TOEFL IELTS. Don't waste time, money there. There's enough to waste money and time on through this application process. And second, right, give time to your SOPs. And third, get your resumes redone by people who've lived there, worked there. There is no other shortcut to this.
Just to carry on that point that you mentioned in the thing, get it checked by people who have been there, and more people read it, the better, or maybe experts. On our platform, we encourage the same philosophy. We have special SOP writers listed. In fact, we recently I had a lawyer friend who writes for Bar and Bench, and she's an exceptional SOP reviewer. She reviews applications for NYUs also. And when someone like her reads your SOP, you get a fresh perspective, and you also get a third person point of view, and like alumni like you are there on the platform. I feel talking to you would give students a new perspective that they didn't think of before, like,
That
right?
plus, I also feel one another issue that we face in India is university counselors.
Yeah.
Truth is that a university counselor has 100 SOPs to write, and they're going to be similar. Or usually they have a form where they make you fill out stuff and they write for you. I understand that it's not easy to write an SOP for everyone. Not everyone will have the English skills or the flair that is needed, and that's understandable. English is not our first language, but
Yeah.
also once you start penning something down and you give yourself those 2 hours in a day and probably do it for 3 days, and you edit and re-edit and then you start sending it to somebody, it it's it's hands down going to come out much, much, much better than a college counselor will do. So I personally suggest anyone and everyone who reaches out to me or has reached out to me in the last couple of years, just don't get a college counselor. It's Most people have a higher chance into getting a better university, at least for law school, if they write their own SOPs.
I mean, agree to that when I think of like who knows your life better than you, who has been through it better than you, right? For articulation purpose, I do agree that we all need help, but not to pick and nitpick what experiences it will be most useful,
Or
right?
also, yeah, exactly, and also you don't want somebody who's doing the same thing for 500 people to also write the same story for you,
Yeah,
because that doesn't make sense. The entire idea of the process is to stand out. How are we standing out? And Indian students apply for masters, any postgraduate degree a lot, like a lot. Like they are a
agree.
huge chunk of money to the United States or to Europe or to the United Kingdom. So just be assured, not doing it yourself means you're not going to stand out.
Exactly. I mean, I have personally hosted multiple scholars like you, and they tell me one thing that in my SOP, I also admit what I don't know, and that's okay. And that is absolutely okay to say that, okay, I didn't know this in my undergraduate, I didn't do such exceptional work. I recently had someone who said that they the university that she went to, they hired somebody with 15 years of experience with no education experience of the industry they were working in. Like, it's different apple to apple, right? And that's a very important point you made. Thank you so much. I feel I'm gaining so much insight on not only LLM but general application process that is useful for people across the board. So, Vayuna, coming to next question. After you got into your, NYU, how was the experience studying there? Like, how's New York? How's the university? And that's something students would want to know.
Yes. So NYU, I personally think is great as a university, and I'll tell you why. I'm not saying this just because I went to NYU. That's fine, whatever. But the reason I think NYU is great is because other than the faculty, the courses, and the student body in itself being great, NYU is right in the middle of New York, like literally in the middle of New York.
Yeah.
So when you come to NYU as a student, and I didn't come to the United States as a 22-year. I came to the United States when I was 26. I had 3 years of work experience. I was a child. At least I don't think I was a child. People
Yeah.
might disagree, but okay. So it's so much to learn because New York as a city teaches you acceptance, or at least that's what I have learned. It teaches you that it's okay to not have the same preferences, choices in life for anything, the smallest of the things, the biggest of the things as somebody else, and still just thrive. So that is something that NYU being in the bang middle of New York, being around so much crowd, so many random people, just wearing whatever they like, doing whatever they like, taught me. And that I think had a huge, huge role to play in my professional life in New York. So for me, New York being right there was a hit. And but also it comes with the fact that New York does not, NYU does not have a gated campus. And I understand the feeling of wanting a gated campus in a community or a university vibe where you know that everybody you see around you is a student. That is not something that NYU does give, but it's also a matter of preferences. For me, the fact that I wasn't in a gated community and I was out in the city, probably right next to a street which was super crowded and which was always super fun. There was jazz music on, and there were things happening, and there were parks around, and people playing a lot of instruments, and just talking about stuff helped a lot. So I think that is important for perspective. And with NYU, for beyond faculty courses, etc., 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 it just does help with a lot of resources when it comes to jobs. So it helps the career wing or the career section. I don't remember what it's called now, was extremely helpful, which is not true for most LLM universities, at least.
Yeah.
So the career section for NYU, I know if I message one of my career counselors in email today, I will probably get a reply, even though it's a Saturday, by tonight or by Monday. And if it's a weekday, it's going to be within hours. I have had my resumes reviewed 3 times or 4 times at different points in the year by people, by their counselors. There is a dedicated master's counselor that NYU has for law. Now, I can't speak about other streams at NYU at this point about the career counselor office, but for law, it's, trust me, extremely uncommon. Uh,
Yeah.
master's legal students are not supported as much, and that's the truth at most of these universities. But NYU had that. NYU had postgraduate fellowships for us, which we could apply for, and we had a great jobs board. And I know that initially when I began the career counselor I'm speaking about, she used to read all of my cover letters, and I used to sometimes send like 10 applications in a week, and she would do it for me. So I personally thought that this was something that NYU offered and which helped not probably directly in getting a job, but in building my profile or letting me know how I have to build my profile to reach there. And also the good part about the career office is that we get lifetime support. So tomorrow, if I want to contact them, even though I'm an alumni, they will do the exact same thing for me till whenever I think I don't need them anymore. I just recently reached out to them a couple of days ago. But yeah, so that's one thing which I thought was great about NYU. I'm not going to talk about faculty courses and everything because I think when we pick universities, we know that we are picking them for great faculty, great courses. So
Yeah.
that's okay. And being in the middle of New York, it's very educational. Like beyond it being just jazzy and fancy with those buildings. It's just it's very eye opening. And I came from a place where I think we in school, in college, or at work, we are a little judgmental. But then when I came here, I realized that nobody cares what you're doing. Everybody will accept you the way you are, or even if everybody doesn't, people will. And second, it's okay to live like you choose or want to, and it's also okay to let people live like the way they choose or want to. So
Yeah.
all of those things, yes, I that's how I picked NYU. I picked NYU initially because I was in New York, but then when I came here, this is what I learned that worked, and also because I knew the NYU career office is great. So that's how I made my decision about NYU.
That just really makes NY on top of my list as well to suggest people to go to and attend this talk because when a lot of law students, and I completely second you on that, the community that other disciplines have, I don't think we have that yet in legal fraternity.
Yeah,
The kind of alumni networks or the kind of student support we have in other engineering colleges now that I'm working with them more, I see they have great support system
yeah,
and great ecosystem among themselves, and in our industry we are lacking that. But I guess people like you are just taking up mentorships and encouraging that. So I think that day will be soon where we'll be working neck to neck with other industries too when it
yeah.
comes to mentorship.
I really hope we do.
Yeah, I mean, you're so confused. Like people think law is just one stream, but there is so much more to do. In there is environment. There is, I mean, ESG is a different
Yeah,
discipline that's coming up. After COVID, it just boomed. And whom do you ask about it? Like, who is the right person to talk about it? So. And would you just like to emphasize on one point that you said gated communities because our audience is diverse here? Would you like to explain what does gated
yes.
communities mean?
So what I mean by a gated community is if you go to a state university, say in whichever state you belong, there'll be a computer science section, there'll be a law section, there'll be a BS, a BCom, and everything, but everything will be in the same area, and all the buildings will be together, and probably the hostels will also be there. So there'll be a huge gate which you enter, and you've probably entered the arena where these buildings start. So that's not how NY works because NY is right in the middle of New York. So there's no gate opening anybody to NYU. But these are just buildings that you would find on streets which are close to each other. So like the 15th, so streets means gullies. So on like say so if you have say Mahatma Gandhi roads, there'll be one building there. Then if you have say Subhash Chandra Bose road, then there'll be another building there, which will still be around a 5-10 minute walk to each other. But there's not going to be any cafe where people from different places come and sit and talk. But there'll be dining halls where just basically you can go eat food, but there's no such concept of living together, of interacting in by distance, like by closeness of distance.
Understood. Even Bangalore has this concept of fourth cross street and eighth cross street.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
the
Okay. I think the world is becoming more and more single. And because you love New York, there is this show on Netflix called Pretend It's a City by Franz Lebowitz. It's an amazing show where she says that the Dalai Lama would lose its cool if he comes to New York subway.
yeah.
So coming to your career part, where you said career offices, how would you? Did you go to New York thinking that you want to work there? Because, yeah, like you said, your litigation career was going good, or did you plan on coming back to India after you studied there? I mean, which one
So
was it?
I, because I was drawn to public interest litigations, I came to New York with the hope that I would be able to work in human rights, and also that my aim was to interact with as many people from as many nationalities as I can, because I thought I would want to represent different people, understand them, understand their culture, and why they are the way they are. So when I left, I was hoping to get an opportunity in the United States doing public interest work, but I was very open to the reality that I might not, and I might have to come back to India. What would I do after coming back to India is probably go litigate once again, because I liked it, but that is I didn't have to think about it.
How did you go about finding opportunities in New York? Because whenever I speak to international students, they're like, sometimes firms don't prefer us because they have to sponsor us, and we don't get on-campus jobs. It's difficult to survive. And what's your take on that? How was your experience?
Okay, so finding a job as a law student specifically, and not as a computer science student or a finance student,
Exactly.
is going to test you. So it's especially, so there will be jobs which you will get, like which you will also know after a point that you'll get. But the trick is to do what you came here in the first place for. And for that tricky part, it's just very difficult because demand supply thing. For tech, we know there is probably more demand than supply, probably not at this time of the year or current market situation, but generally. But for law, Americans can do law. Like, they're good at it.
Yeah.
And the demand for for accepting somebody who's not from their country is not high, and that's the truth. So even if there were no visa issues, you wouldn't need work authorization in the United States. Even in that case, it would be tough to find opportunities in the US, because um, there is a certain set of and there's a certain set of people who graduated from the best of the universities, completed their undergraduate here or the JD. It's not really an undergraduate degree, but the JD here, and there are
Yeah.
enough of those. But it's also important to be able to tell them why they need you. And that's not because you know things great. That's not going to float, because that's not probably even true in law. But the fact that the experiences that you come from, how they would help them represent the set of people that they do represent, is something that's going to play a huge, huge, huge role. And for anybody, for so many law students who reach out to me to ask how does one look for a job, and how does one go through the period where one is looking for a job and probably receiving a lot of rejections, because you will receive a lot of rejections, is the thing is to just stay at it, take that 1 day break, or whatever break you need to take. Hope that you're lucky enough to end up working in the area that you want to. If not, you will definitely find something for sure. And just just apply. Like, there's not going to be any shortcut to sitting down, writing that cover letter, and tweaking your resume and sending it out. And it's insane amounts of work, because the sad part is in law you have to write a cover letter. You can't just keep uploading your resume.
Yeah.
So it's going to take that time. Like, that your weekend is gone. Your weekend is going to be sending applications, and that's the truth of life. Just acceptance helps. Like, once we come from a place where we know this is what we have to go through, there's a lot of acceptance, and it unbelievably helps you get through that period. But write your cover letters, tweak your resumes. There is zero shortcut. Like, trust me, I wanted to try every possible shortcut in the world, and I wish it would have worked. There's genuinely zero shortcut. Send out those applications, learn how to talk. The first three interviews you give, you'll be shit because your words will be different, your expression will be different. After the third interview, you get so much better. You learn how to talk about your work, which is not something we do in India because we are very conscious about it. You learn how to talk about what you've done, but still be humble about it. And you will be in a place where you can answer unexpected questions very, very quickly. And this is just practice. So give your mock interviews. Whoever can take them, or whoever is around you as your community or set up whoever to take your interviews. Get your cover letters read. Resumes, after a point, you'll have to tweak by yourself because nobody's going to tweak all your resumes for all your applications. Once you have a standardized draft, then you can work around it. Just do the work. And for the work authorization issues or visa issues, don't take an employer who doesn't want to sponsor your visa because it's just
Exactly.
there's no point to it. And it's very enticing. There are periods of desperation in life where we think we'll figure things out, but we're not going to figure these things out. And don't give up on what you came to do in the first place too early. There will be situations, I don't know the personal story for people, and we might have to, but don't give up unless you absolutely need to, or probably keep doing it on the side. But just do what you came here for. And the last thing is, it does get easy, it does get better, and it does work out. So there will be, if there are 100 people telling you you won't do it, there'll still be one who says do it, and just stick to that person because you will.
That was so motivational, and I'm going to ask the engineers to rename this as New York Reality Check. Please do watch for the reality check of what happens after you go for an LLM. Also, because this caters to majority of law students, I think you'll get these questions later. That did your trilegal experience, litigation experience, help recruiters later to hire you? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
So the thing is, for the US, in law especially, I personally suggest that if you want to enter the job market, e- public interest, private interest, law firms, in house, whatever, NGOs, don't come without experience. It's not going to work out. If you want a career in academia, if you want to do a PhD, come ASAP, come as soon as possible because why waste time in India? But for the others, um, I give multiple interviews, but I was interested in public interest. So most of my interviews, I spoke about what I have done as a litigator in the Gujarat High Court. And that's how I convinced people I had skills that were transferable to get jobs here.
yeah.
But that said, you can also switch streams. So if you worked as a corporate lawyer in India who was doing, I don't know, capital markets, you can come here and do mergers and acquisitions, but you will still need a story. Ideal work experience in my head is 4 or 5 years. I also didn't have it. So by the time you're a senior at a law firm in India, you find it very, very easy to look for jobs in the United States in the law firms. But the backside to that is you'll probably start off as a first year or second year associate. And I had 2 or 3 years of work ex, which did have some transferability to it. So that was okay. But yes, ideal is 4 or 5. Don't come without it. Um, but if you're an international tax LLM student from NYU or Georgetown, if that's something you are aiming for, then you're gold. Then no worry about anything. If you get through these two programs, because the United States just needs international tax LLM students, and LLM and tax LLM is one LLM which is just very highly valued in the market. So if you've managed to crack Georgetown or NYU for either of these programs, it's fine. It doesn't matter what experience you have, the fact that you've made it is good enough.
That was very interesting information. And there is another question, and I'm just, bringing in all these because I don't know when I'll get you next for an hour because you're built by hours, right? So, yeah. So, how would you suggest students make their decisions to write their bar exam, pick their states, and what are the benefits and challenges that you faced along with it?
Okay, so bar exams are tricky. I personally, I'll probably not start with what I personally feel, but I'll start with the what two broad areas of thought are. There's an entire area of thought which says, or for which people believe that it's okay to not write the bar exam because you want to look for opportunities in accounting firms because big fours don't need the bar exam, or
Right.
you want to work in international organizations, which is the World Bank, UN, and something along those lines. Third is you probably want to go back to India or work in Europe or the UK. And the fourth set is who want to do academia. And there's always, sorry, actually, there's a fifth set, just do a master's for exposure and not really to work in any sort of market here. So, and there's another category of people who would write the bar exam irrespective, because the truth is, as an international LLM student, you'll probably take your bar exam back home as something which is worth more value than your LLM degree. And that's harsh, but it's true. And being an attorney qualified in another jurisdiction also does open up a lot of opportunities, not in India, but if you're working in Singapore, or
Arbitration. Yeah.
or you're working in London, or you're working in whatever Paris. So there are lots of international firms which would want a New York qualified attorney so that you can sign off on papers, which they are working, whatever transactions they are working on. So that, but personally, I feel that the New York bar exam convinces employers in New York that you can do their work. And I know of a lot of NGO owners or whatever, CEOs, presidents, however they would like to put for themselves, that who've told me that it's just write the bar exam because it tells us that you can do our work. And it's it's not very convincing because a lot of times you feel that if I don't really need it, why do I have to go through it? The bar exam is a time commitment, and more than that, it's a money commitment. It's expensive, and you will need a bar prep course. You'll pay a very hefty fees for the firm. You will have to pay the attorney registration fees, which I recently just paid, and whatever. And you will probably have to travel to some place to give the bar exam because you might not get the center which is close home. So all of these things are expensive. Don't write or take the bar exam just because why not? Because it's too hard,
Yeah.
too expensive to do a might as well in life with the bar exam. But and beyond this, also I have one more tip, which is a lot of women do get married and come to the United States on a spousal visa. For those women, or somebody who's planning to go down that route, or also men, if they marry whoever they do end up marrying and they come on a spousal visa, California bar exam is an exam you can give without doing an LLM as an Indian. So that is something that people do consider. Another limitation of the bar exam is that if I write the New York bar exam, I can only practice or sign off as an attorney for the state of New York. I cannot do it for any other state. So next time, if I have to sign off on papers in California, I'll probably have to give that exam once again, which is very disincentivizing. So also pick the jurisdiction right. Like I know that I want to do human rights. If end up staying in the United States for the next 20 years of my life, here is where I want to be. So for me, New York makes sense. There's no other place in the US which has a, a large amount of very good work. But also, the truth is, New York has a lot more legal work than any other place, except with California. Your spouse works in the Silicon Valley, which is true for a lot of Indians, or if you want to do privacy, tech,
Yeah.
transaction sort of work, then that's the area. Otherwise, New York is what usually people from, even if they would do an LM in Michigan or in Boston, do prefer to give as their bar exam.
Right. So unlike India, where you have all India bar exam, I don't think
No,
America has that.
every state has its own bar exam. You won't be able to write all states also, because not all states accept foreign trained attorneys, even if you do an LLM. So you'll have to see, there are some 4 5 states which I don't remember, but New York and California are the biggest contenders generally.
Yeah, that sounds tedious, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
So Ayuna, because I mean, I would love to keep talking to you because it's so refreshing to hear all these words, litigation, bar exams. But I mean, talking to you makes me feel like if I ever want to go for an LLM, you would be the first person I would like to call. So, how important is the role of a mentor in this entire journey? Did you have a mentor?
So I did not really have a mentor, which is why I know that how important it is to have a mentor. Uh, you need it for your SOP reviews, you need it for your resumes, you need it for your cover letters, need it for your interview prep. Because, like you said, the truth is there's no community law in the United States. There's
Yeah.
no strong community. So all of these people are really, really important. I have had people here and there work with me, which is, like I said, the career counselor at NYU did. I also actually had a mentor who was matched through some program at NYU, but he, I think, read all of my urgent cover letters. So I was sending cover letters saying, "Hi, I need to send out this application in the next 4 hours. Can you please do this for me?" And he would. He would be traveling, and I've had him send me comments on text. Okay, this third line in paragraph 5, change. I think it means this. Why don't you change it? So this I have, and I'm very, very grateful to this person for doing what he did for me. I don't think anybody, and this person wasn't even Indian, so he was somebody who had done a JD in the United States, and he was somebody working in public interest, and he just somehow, I spoke to him and he understood how it's going to be an uphill task for me, to figure my way around New York. So I feel mentors. I'm not saying that you need mentors at every stage in life, because I'm sure you're smart and you've experienced life, but at some points and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to tell a person that, I don't have a lot of work experience. I don't think I've done this. I love the position. Can you help me draft a cover letter for it? And they will, because it's just how we need to work as humans. So I feel mentorship is extremely important. You can pick and choose what you need the mentorship for. Probably not everything, but just ask for it when you need it. It's a smarter thing to do for a long term result.
Yeah.
And US is different, like it's very different. It's just you. Even if I say X thing in India, it might float, but in the US, just because I'm not from here and because I don't speak their legalese or their vocabulary, it needs some help. And we are here to assimilate, because the country is not going to assimilate for us or with us.
Yeah. I remember when I used to talk to people from New York, they would be like, in India, we are taught to send these lengthy client feedback and, case briefs. And here it's an email like, hi, this is your attorney. This is what you're going to do. And it's this complete shift of work and work-life balance and everything just, shifts here.
Yeah.
So it might not be as fancy as it looks, but from what you're saying, I feel all the pain is worth it in the end. Like if you maybe
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it depends on what you set out to achieve, and making a story on what you did before you came here for it to be transferable to the current position or the current university is hard. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it, and I used to figure I can speak decent English, so I'll just know it just doesn't come. You have
Yeah.
we just have to speak to people. We just have to hear people tell us, and that's how it comes to us.
Yeah.
Now I can, like, now I'm in a place where I know I can write cover letters in 10 minutes. It's fine. But that's
Yeah.
my goal, and that's what I've done after I probably returned. Kid you not, probably at least 50.
Yeah. I feel after you have been to one of the top colleges in India and then work with a top firm, and when you just start from scratch again, like a law student applying to internships, I mean that is a difficult journey. I feel that's a difficult journey within.
Yeah, it's hard, but then with help, it does get easier.
Yeah. So we have couple of questions in the chat box. Second question, how has your LLM helped you in your career? We have covered that. So I'll take the another one. How did you go about, living in New York City, finding accommodation, finding houses to live, and how did that journey look like? Because I'm sure even that would have been a challenge.
Yes. So for me, when I came to NYU, I lived in the student housing, which for me at that point was like a very straight decision because LLMs and 9 month courses, they are very quick. I wanted to be around resources. I wanted to be in a place where I can get up and walk across the street and go to the university, attend class, or meet my career counselor, or go for an event, which I personally thought if I had to travel 15 minutes, I would probably never go for it.
Yeah.
So that's a decision I took at a personal level for myself. Other than that, there are multiple areas to live in New York or the New York City. If you speak with people around you who've been here or who are working here or who've at any point lived here, they'll be able to give you a lot of insight. There are Facebook groups where you find like how we do it for Bombay, the flats and made groups and stuff like that. It's very similar. There's Indians in New York, Indians in Jersey City, and a lot of such places. Also, your university where you do end up applying is mostly going to send you resources on how to look for accommodation. The thing with accommodation is it's always easy to do it earlier. Like the earlier you do it and you set it out for yourself, it's better than probably being late in it, because then things go out, things start getting expensive. It's a long set of issues that come up, but do it as soon as you can.
I like continuing on that. We do have a Nebula community, because the platform is based on making international students' life easier. We do have communities on, living in New York or living in America. So I would just encourage people to, if you are living there, if you want to live there, maybe it's a safe space to participate in. And I would like to close on just asking Vayuna any final statements because I would love to keep on talking to you, but we are a time crunch. So just, yeah.
So I think like what I would suggest to people is getting up out of where you are and going abroad for education and then looking for jobs is a tough journey. But the real question is it worth it? It is.
Yeah.
For whatever you've wanted to achieve, be it just the exposure, a job, or academia, or anything, it's worth it. But it also comes with a caveat is when you come or when you go through the journey, know what you're signing up for. Surprises are not fun, at least here. So just know what you're signing up for. Talk to people. Most often, people will be very happy answering questions because they've been through the process and they know how hard or how difficult it can be personally. And it's okay after 5 years to decide to go back to India, or after 10 years to decide to go back to India. Just that you would have learned so much out of it beyond. And I don't talk about just the financial aspect of things. You probably would have made money, fair, but beyond
Yeah.
that, you would have learned a lot. So I think the entire New York journey, I would want to believe, has made me a better person than I was when I came to New York from
Right.
India. And maybe it's just the part of growing up, or I don't know, but it's just something that I do cherish or value New York for. That it did teach me a lot of things, which has made me a bigger human being. So do that and also help people. Just if you can, don't not. Just do it. Because
Yeah.
just it's a process, and we should go through it. And we have to. It's hard. Doesn't mean you have to make it harder for somebody else also.
I mean, that's a philosophy. I'm going to clip that and I'm going to ask the editors to make it like a video on our platform. Like, that's what we stand for that, helping others, we rise by lifting others. They say that one, wick of candle can light up 1,000 candles in the room. And that's what mentorship is, right? That what you are saying to me, I will maybe pass it on to someone else, and that's how the chain will begin. So thank you so much, Vayuna. I think it's so refreshing to talk to a lawyer after so long, and that to you, and I'm more power to you. Like Ruth Ginsburg said, maybe we'll see you on the bench someday in New York.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think America had its first female colored judge very recently, so maybe, yeah. Fingers crossed for that. Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining right now. I mean, it's late in India, but I appreciate you all giving your time, and this will be available on our YouTube platform as well as on Nebula. So please be sure to check it out, and you know where to connect Vayuna on her LinkedIn as well as soon on Nebula. So hopefully we'll rope her in. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you, like coming and taking out time. I think it's very early there, early in the day.
Yeah, I have my
Yeah.
light on.
Yeah. So I hope you have a great day today, and we'll connect soon.
Yes, bye bye. And thank you
Bye.
for having me here. It was great to talk to people. I wish I could make life easier for all the law
Yeah.
students who come to the United States. And if I could correct things for them, I would just erase so much out of the system. But it's
You
okay.
and me both.
Life, the harder the things get, I guess, the more we learn how to deal with them.
Yeah.
So I'm
Right.
there. I'm going to be here. I'm going nowhere. And I'm very, very happy to help with anything I can.
Thank you so much. We'll take you up on that. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.